This is Ian with Build Brothers. Going to go ahead and do my digital inspection here at 8756 Foxborough Court in Lakeside. Going to start here at the front of the home. We always start underneath the eaves, and we're looking at the fascia, the rafter tails, the starter board, and the blocking is what's made or what makes up the fascia. There will be substantial wood repair on this home. We know that from the termite inspections. We see a lot of rotten corners and edges where water has been getting in for a while. After the wood gets wet, then typically the termites move in. So we know that there will be substantial wood repair. We see it on the beams. We see a leak here that's been going on for quite some time to create that much rot there on the starter board. All of this will need to be rebuilt. It looks like that beam will most likely need to be changed as well. Let's go ahead and jump up on the roof, take a look at what we see up there. We got a full weight concrete tile. We refer to this shape as Malibu, and it's a low profile S tile. The color, all indications are that the roof is original with the home, and I think that's pretty common knowledge. There's only one layer of what appears to be maybe a 30-pound felt, and nowadays we're required to use 2 layers, and we use 2 layers of 40-pound granulated felt that actually lasts longer. We do have bird stop, but no drip edge. Drip edge is a piece of metal flashing that we have to include on all roofs now. It preserves that edge and stops a lot of that water damage and termite damage that we see around this home. We see a lot of color loss on these tiles and a lot of moss and mildew growth on them. What is this? This is the northeast facing roof slope, and so it does not get a lot of sunshine in the winter time. We'll start to notice this cracked corner on quite a few tiles around the house. It's very common. Fortunately, it does not compromise the waterproofing when just that little corner is chipped up. Okay, so severe damage along all of this fascia here. That'll all need to be replaced. I lifted the tile over here just to get an idea of what the felt looks like, and it's completely disintegrating, pretty much gone, and we see a lot of water streaking along the felt. And lift that back into place. We know that the water is getting in from this flashing here, and that tile was in place. I moved it just so we could get a better look at the felt. We'll take a closer look at that when I get up there. These are what's called closed valleys. Closed valleys are when the tile are touching in the valley and tends to create problems. So nowadays we use open valleys where we leave a 3 to 4 inch gap between the tile to allow debris and water to move through the valley much easier. This was a broken tile here. I moved it just so we could get a general idea of what the felt looks like in this area, and that's one of the better looking areas. Let's move quickly around to the rest of the house. We'll go ahead and put this tile back in place. These tiles are pretty darn strong. I've been walking around up here for a while and maybe chipped one corner. I haven't actually broken any yet. Any of these tiles that are up against this, what we call a roof to wall flashing. This is a counter flashing or a Z-bar. This is a roof to wall flashing. A lot of times these tiles aren't nailed, and so we can see that they're sliding out of place. And there we get a good view of all of the moisture that we can see on this felt. So we know water has been getting on. Water has been getting to the felt for some time. Put those back in place. Again, this one had almost slid out of place. Well, it was definitely slid out of place because we can, anywhere where you can see the different colors on the felt, that means moisture's on there, and it hasn't rained in a while. None of these tiles had been nailed in place. Does not look like they were cut with a grinder. It looks like the installers just used hammers or whatever to install those tiles. Go ahead and get those back in place. Just wanted you to have clear visual of what it looks like underneath there, and that is nearly identical to how I found it. This metal here had this seam popping up, and so I took a closer look at it, and sure enough, it's not one solid piece of metal. Anytime you use sheet metal like this, in a dead valley or a cricket or something like that. You want it to be one solid piece. This is obviously failing and been failing for some time. Water's definitely getting in there. I would expect to find a lot of rotten plywood there. This chimney here, actually, there was this tile. Looks like it was low nailed forever ago, and so we know a lot of water is getting in around this tile. This tile pan, I'll show you how a tile pan works. So when we see a big long wall to tile like this, all the water that hits this wall goes down and gets underneath the tile, and it lands on a piece of metal called the tile pan. The tile pan's responsible for running that water all the way down to the end of the roof and off. But we know after 37 years that this tile pan gets full of debris, and then it sends water to the felt. And after felt is this old, it's bad. So sure enough, we start looking around. This tile was not nailed because the nail would have to go through the tile pan, and you don't puncture the tile pan. But I started lifting things up, and sure enough, that big old lump of debris right there, as water's rushing down the tile pan, hits that debris and gets pushed off, and then the water finds its way in. So there is, every 10 or 15 years or so, there is maintenance to do to tile pans like that. So let's keep working. Couple things I want to show you up here on the second story that we haven't quite seen so far. Tight valleys, bad flashings, bad mortar, lots of broken tile. This tile had slid out of place, not quite as much as it is here. I moved it so that we could get a clear look at the mold and moisture in this area. These mortar flashings are usually lasted about 20 years before they started leaking. Luckily, there is a secondary metal flashing underneath there that has kept this water from getting into the house too bad. We know that we will find some damage around the plywood here. There we go. All right, last thing was this chimney back here. We see all that mastic around the counter, the Z-bar, and the tile pan, and so somebody has tried to fill that gap to keep water from getting in there. We know it's the tile pan is creating the problem. So we found this loose tile here, moved it out of the way. Sure enough, that felt is very, very wet and growing moss. So we know water's been rushing underneath here for a long time. And again, we can expect to find a lot of rotten wood. So in my opinion, this roof is somewhere probably 5 to 10 years past its life expectancy and is having dozens and dozens of issues. These water pipes, most likely they've been deleted at the water heater, and so I would guess that they're not live water lines anymore. But when this roof gets redone, these would need to go away. I did happen to notice that asphalt shingle on that very low slope patio cover, and asphalt shingle never works on a low slope like that. Wasn't designed for anything less than a 3 and 12 pitch, and that appears to be somewhere between a 1 and 2 pitch. So based on everything we've seen, this roof needs to be replaced immediately.